Well, members of Congress and the Biden administration met with Ukraine's Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference over the weekend. And as usual, the focus was our continuing the war between Ukraine and Russia and how the United States is going to fund it. But Americans increasingly want to know exactly where this money is going in Ukraine. And is there any interest in a plan to actually end that war? Joining me now is Florida Congressman Cory Mills, member of the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. There's a question of whether or not President Biden is actually interested in dealing with you folks in the House at all. Let me just put together a soundbite of President Biden today and then of Speaker Johnson. Roll tape.
I'd be happy to if he has anything to say.
It's been mentioned that I've been requesting a meeting with the president for weeks now, a month. I've been asking to sit down with the president to talk about the border and talk about national security, and that meeting has not been granted.
So, Congressman, I don't know if you could hear the president. The helicopter was going, but he said he wants a meeting with the speaker. But the speaker said clearly he's been trying to get a meeting with the president for weeks, and he hasn't. So who's telling a fib here?
Well, I was just spending the last 2 days with Speaker Johnson here in Florida, and I can tell you that he has made multiple requests to not only meet with the president, but also with Senate leadership to discuss these foreign aid supplementals. Look, the only thing that has come out of the Munich conference is a demand which has been more vocal than ever for Europe to stand up and actually do something and pay their fair share. What you're not hearing, however, is peace talks and an actual strategy on how to end the war in Ukraine. Let me be clear. This continuation of trying to entangle us in Democrat and Biden's endless wars needs to stop. And we need to be focusing on the priorities, which is the Senate passing H.R. 2 Secure the Border Act and us taking care of the American risk, which is our southern and northern borders. I will be clear. I will vote no on all funding to Ukraine. Our priority and my priority is to be the one who is carrying out my duties, my constitutional oath to protect the American people. And that's who I serve, not Zelensky and his regime.
Well, it's not, as you well know, it's not only Democrats in the Senate that are for this endless funding without the kind of oversight that we need. There are a number of Republicans that are involved, including the leader, the minority leader in the Senate. Have you talked with those Republicans in the Senate that don't want any kind of strings attached to the payments to Ukraine?
Well, look, as I've made it clear more and more, the two Democrats who run the Senate, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, have continued to play this neoconservative, neoliberal game of trying to fund more wars. We've heard more war cries from Lindsey Graham and all the others. What we haven't heard is how do we actually secure our border? How do we look at the prosperity and economic growth strategies? How do we get single point legislation through that actually benefits the American people and drops inflation, where inflation, as you just talked about in your previous segment, is growing higher than the actual minimum wage. And so I think that we need to be taking our priorities here domestically, but we also need to focus on the fact that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are geopolitically aligned and trying to drag us in a quagmire of warfare while China prepares its move in the Indo-Pacific on Taiwan. And so this is economic, this is resource, this is cyber-based, and we need to start looking at the evolution of warfare, not playing kinetic gun-to-gun, bomb-to-bomb, or tit-for-tat with Iran. We need to be smarter about foreign policy.
Well, Congressman, I want to talk about Israel in a second, but since you mentioned the border, let me just bring it up and ask a simple question. Is there anything in that Senate bill that you saw that you agree with? We know that the Border Patrol agents, some of whom voted for Donald Trump, had some things very positive to say. In fact, the head of the union was actually in favor of the bill because of the points that he mentioned. He said some things could be stripped out in negotiation with the House. But was there anything you liked about what was in that bill?
Look, what I've liked, and I continue to say how much I honor and respect those at the border, especially our CBP officers who are continuing to deal with this catastrophe day in and day out. It is a human rights, it is a national security and a health crisis. But the bottom line is that we have put a conservative and robust platform with H.R. 2 onto the platform. I will not do a lumped bill that has foreign supplementals and our border. I'm not going to explain to the American taxpayers that we have to pay 2 and 3 times the amount of money to secure the borders of another nation before securing our own. The mom and dads who are actually getting up before dark and coming home late, barely getting by, I am not taking their taxpayer dollars and sending that abroad when it's needed here at home.
You know, the other thing, of course, about the spending on Ukraine, there was no attempt to pay for it by taking something away from other things. For example, supersizing the IRS. I mean, you know, honestly, and just with Israel alone, correct me if I'm wrong, but Israel's about 15 to 18 billion dollars, right? That's how much the supplemental has it at. And if
it was approximately 14 billion,
okay.
And it was an IRS offset that would not have increased national debt.
Bingo. Well, I mean, 50 billion is how much the administration wants to spend on the IRS. You'd only have to take 1/3 of that in order to pay for Israel, which is
David,
a vital interest to the United States.
Yes, but David, there's multiple avenues of offsets. We could utilize the unused COVID expenditures. We could be utilizing the money from UNRWA, who was actually a part of the October 7th incident. We could be looking at the IRS offsets. We could be looking at climate offsets. There are multiple ways that we can look at it because our greatest domestic and national security threat is our growing debt. We have $34 trillion. We have no GDP to national debt income ratio strategy. We're not looking at reforms, prosperity, and growth, which are the three key things that are necessary. And we're continuing to borrow and spend at a $1.6 to $1.7 trillion level that is not sustainable for the American people or the nation.
All right. Congressman, we got to leave it there. Cory Mills, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.